Oh man, guys, this video has been taking a while to get out. I probably recorded it 4 times previously. Kept running into issues like memory settings on the iPhones because I'm trying to use different cameras now, higher quality to make things look better. But also just in general trying to work out new recording methods. I had my one of the other takes, all my sound settings were on one channel instead of separated, so that caused a problem. So this is a fifth attempt, and as you see, I am trying to actually make things like more production quality. I even got a little clapper, so that's great. So let's try this again. No, it's none of that stuff. It's just regular. Let's try this again. Okay. Hey guys, this is Chuck. Welcome back to Maverick's Arcade. As you can see, I'm trying to be a little silly. But what we are doing today is we are installing the Pixelcade on LEDBlinky, and we're going to walk through exactly how to do that. Now, I was going to do this on the Arcade 1-Up machine. However, as you can see, that is clearly not ready for production. I've still got to do the control panel on that. I've got to reskin the outside, which I need to figure out how to measure the control panel exactly because they don't have that layout at the graphic company that I go to. So, what we're going to do is we're going to test this with the device out by itself, just to show you through the install. And then we've got an awesome surprise in the next video, which will be great. So, first off, of course, we have the Pixelcade. But on the back, you can see I practice what I preach. I made myself a label that says, make sure to use the Pixelcade power only. Because again, we don't want to risk damaging the device. And I also installed it on the power block. Again, Pixelcade power supply. And then even on the ends, it says Pixelcade. And on the power side, it says Pixelcade. Now, so far, the only complication that I've had with this thing is this power connector seems like extremely loose. Now, it could have been just something with this run. I don't know. If anybody else has the Pixelcade for the 1-Up, please let me know if this is just a loose issue. But again, I'm not too concerned about it because when I mount this in the Pixel Arcade 1-Up machine, I'll make sure to mount the block tight, and then I'll put a little zip tie screwed in to hold this in position. So not a big concern, but just something I thought was a little bit loose. So before we do the install, there's a couple of prerequisites that we have to make sure of. And that is that the arcade machine is connected to the internet for the install. This is because it will go and download video files and everything that it needs for the Pixelcade. So make sure the internet is connected to the arcade. We also want to make sure that on the back here, that the USB selector on the card right here is set for USB and not Bluetooth. So make sure it's set for USB and not Bluetooth. Make sure that the device is, again, powered in with the Pixelcade power cord and Pixelcade block. Now, with your Pixelcade, you also received a, I believe this is dual male A-ended USB cables. Those right there. And we want to make sure that, of course, the one end's plugged into the arcade and the other end is plugged into the Pixelcade device right here. So, make sure that's all done. Make sure everything's been connected. And then let's go on to the install. So when you first plug in the Pixelcade, it's just going to scroll through all the photos that are stored on the card in the device, and that's normal. So everything is working correctly at this point. Just make sure you've plugged the device into the arcade machine with the USB cable. Now, if you are on Windows 7, that cable will have to, or the driver will have to be installed manually, and he does provide instructions on how to do that. But if you're on Windows 10 like me, the driver install is automatic, so you don't have to worry about it. So we're just going to go ahead and proceed. Again, if you have Windows 7, his website very easily tells you how to install the necessary driver. So we go ahead and launch this installer. And I do have to say I'm very happy the way he also handled the administrative rights in this software. A lot of times with these smaller homebrew applications or smaller company applications, you'll run into complications because they expect the user to have administrative rights. Well, I come from an IT background, and on my arcade machine, the arcade account that uses the arcade does not have administrator rights. And I was very thrilled to see how well his application installer works with non-administrative rights. So you can see here it's saying, you know, this is for the device. We hit next. Now we are installing the LED, not the LCD version. So we're going to hit LED. And the standard, you know, give up your children. No, actually, this is just telling you of that part about the Windows 7 and Windows 10 driver needs. And also to make sure that you are using the A to A cable for the USB. So we hit next. Now it did detect where LEDBlinky is installed, which is in the LED control folder. So it's trying to create its own subfolder there, assuming you'd want to keep the information close by. So we're going to go ahead and hit next and allow that folder to be used. And then we're going to go ahead and hit install. Now this is where it's going to prompt us for the administrator login, and it's asking for the account and password because, again, my arcade account does not have administrative rights. So we go ahead and log that in, and you can see the install is just beginning. Pretty straightforward at this point. All right, so once that install completes, the console window will disappear automatically, and we are left with the website that we were directed to with the instructions. Now, again, we can watch this video later on the software guide, which we'll definitely check out later. But right now, we're just going to continue through the setup. So I'm going to drag this down onto my bar so I can come back to it later. So make yourself a little bookmark, and let's go ahead and close that browser. So now it's telling us that the marquee has been finished, so we'll hit close there. This was what was launching to download those graphics, and we're going to go ahead and hit exit here. Now, it's also opened up the device manager, and the reason why it's done this is because if you have the driver installed and or you're on Windows 10, we need to find out which COM port this device is using. So when you install it, it simulates a COM port. So we're going to open this up, and we can see that the only USB serial device I have on my machine is COM port 4. So made a note of that, COM port 4, and we can go ahead and close this window. Now, on the actual application, it's asking for what that COM port number is. Now, normally, if you're entering in a COM port, you would type in COM 1, 2, 3, or 4. But in this case, they're specifically asking for just the numeric value. So we're going to go ahead and type in 4, and then we're going to hit OK. And it said COM port 4 will be used for Pixelcade. Now it's asking us what size LED we have in our device. It is a P3, 4, 5, or 6, so we're going to go ahead and just hit yes. Now, if we had the smaller pinball version, which is the 2.5, then we would hit no. But in this case, we're hitting yes. It's now detected automatically where LEDBlinky is installed, and it's asking us, is this correct folder? So we're going to say yes, it is. Now, if your version of LEDBlinky was out of date, then it would actually ask you here to update that. And for that, you would choose yes to get the latest version. Now, this question is a little bit funny. It's saying, are you only using this for the marquee for LEDBlinky? Is it only going to be used for LED marquee, or do you use it for other lights? So if we've never had LEDBlinky before, we have no other lights in our arcade, and we are only using it for Pixelcade, then we would answer yes. But as we know, I love lighting. I love things going crazy on my machine, so I already have LEDBlinky configured for other things. So I'm going to use LEDBlinky for other things in concert with Pixelcade. So I'm going to answer no. So again, if you already have LEDBlinky for other purposes, answer no to this question. And if you can think of any better ways to word the question, please make sure to put it in the comments below. I'll pass that along to Al so he can configure, because yeah, he agrees. This question's a little worded a little weird, and I can totally understand why. But if you have any better suggestions, leave them in the comments below. And let's take a moment to say go ahead and subscribe and hit like on this video and turn on notifications so you can get updates about new videos. Do it now. But moving on, we're going to hit no. Now it's asking us what front end do we use. It starts with the default of Hyperspin, but you can see in this list, there's a whole bunch. They got Launchbox, CoinOps, all kinds of things in here. Maximus Arcade, which I originally considered using, and then I found out it was like out of date, no updates coming. So I then switched to Launchbox. But again, we're using Launchbox or Bigbox, so we're going to go ahead and hit Launchbox or Bigbox. Then we'll hit OK. And it's saying, hey, this is where we've detected Launchbox. Is this correct? Well, yes, it actually is. So we hit yes. And then it's trying to find MAME, and it found this copy of MAME. And it's saying, hey, is this the correct location for MAME? And we're going to go ahead and put, yes, it is. And then it says game on. So we're ready to check it out. But before we check out the installation, I wanted to take a moment here to tell you about a really cool video I saw. And I just wanted to kind of highlight this other channel real quick. So I wanted to kind of highlight this cool channel I found, and he's got this really cool video called Galaga, the Hidden Secret. His channel's called The Collector's Zone, and it's Jeff Dickinson. But check out his video, say hi from Maverick's Arcade or something in his comments, give it a like, subscribe to his channel, and I just thought it was really cool because he shows how there's either an Easter egg or a bug in Galaga where you can basically make all the enemies stop shooting at you. And it's like really tedious to go through the process to get it, but he did it to demonstrate it, and it's actually kind of cool, kind of neat. So just check it out. But yeah, it's in the link, and make sure to check that out. It's just really cool. So let's launch Launchbox and see what we got. So again, as the arcade isn't actually playing anything, it will just show a bunch of graphics just scrolling through. But let's go ahead and launch Big Box, and we'll see what changes. Takes a second. So you can see Launchbox launches, and then all of a sudden, the Pixelcade is now showing arcade. And as I scroll through the options, you can see the graphics are changing, which is kind of cool. Super Nintendo, PS2. So all these graphics are already preloaded, which is just awesome. And then we go down to Jukebox. It's got a little animation of dancing notes. Again, just all pretty cool. Then we're going to go into MAME. And you can see it knows most of the games already. Some of the graphics are going to be better than the others based on the artist that did it. And one thing that the website does show also is where you can go, where that custom artwork is collaborated on. And you can actually become a part of the community. So if you want to create your own artwork for some of those marquees and then submit it, then you can provide it to others. So we're definitely going to be looking into that in the near future for that, secret project we're going to be doing. So as you can see, a bunch of different things. Now, some of the other games even have animation in the marquee. So again, just kind of pretty cool that you can do all that. Let's also see what happens when we launch a game. So this time we're going to launch Galaga and watch what happens. Galaga. So it first says now playing in whatever game it's playing. Game. And then I'll actually show you the top scores from that game.
Joystick, horizontal.
After it's done going through the top scores, it'll actually show you the marquee for that game and then just leave that playing. And then when you quit, they'll go back and just act like it did before. Pretty cool. And then when you quit the emulator, it actually in this case says, thanks for playing. And then it will go back to, because the arcade's unloaded, it'll go back to rolling the standard images that are on the device. Now I imagine we'll be able to change it. I just haven't looked into that part yet. Because ideally when the arcade's not loaded, I would either want it just to be off or to be just showing my logo. And I'm sure that's possible. I just haven't played with that part yet. But let's go look at LEDBlinky to see what's happening in the background. All right, so as we open up LEDBlinky, we go over to the integrations tab. We can see that the Pixelcade is now checked and it knows which folder it's been installed right here. And you can see the reason why when the game launches. Now, the game launch is a little bit delayed with mine, but you can have it set welcoming game on is when the front end first starts up. And that's what it's currently set for. You can change that to be whatever you want. And also you can change the text to make it specific colors, things like that. And then also you can make it so that where this is a checkbox that makes it automatically try to pick the correct emulator or so forth when you're scrolling through lists of different systems. So again, just check out these different options. This is when list changes. It's been set to display the emulator image, or you can display a user image or an animation file. Again, it's up to you. We're just going to leave it the way it is because it's perfect. It's out of the box. When the front end is active, we don't have it displaying anything because it's being taken care of by these list changes. Now, if you wanted to have it not do the other things and just display your marquee for the arcade, that's perfectly fine too. But you can also see there are some macros in here for date, time, which game, which system, and either the whole high score list or just the top 3. When the front end quits, that's why it said thanks for playing. You can again make that whatever you want it to be, or make it be an image or an animation file to say goodbye. It's up to you. There's screensaver functionality built in, which will basically just do some random text or random animation images. And then when the game is active, this is when we launched the game. It said now playing, the name of the game, and then the top 3 high scores. It then automatically shows the game image. Now, if you wanted it to go the name of the game, high score, image, name of the game, high score in a loop, then you could check continuous cycle. But then you could also say, if you wanted this to repeat a couple of times before moving to the next step, or show this for a certain amount of time in seconds before looping. So definitely if you were going to loop, you would want to put a time here to make sure that that marquee stays showing before it loops back to the first step. That makes sense. So that's the configuration options in here. As you can see, it's, again, pretty powerful, very simple to install. It's working out perfectly. I love it. All right, so the next thing we're going to discuss is looking at some of the applications installed by the Pixelcade. So let's look over here, and down in our folder here for Pixelcade, we have a couple different things. The first one we're going to check out is browse artwork. And what's actually happening is a listener is actually running a little mini web browser on your system. So be aware if you have anything else that's using port 8080 on your machine, you want to make sure to switch that port because this device is going to use port 8080. Or let's check something. I would say leave it at 8080 regardless. But the other app we're going to check out is here, which is Pixelcade settings down here. So the Pixelcade settings. Click that. And again, it's asking for administrative rights because my normal user does not have administrative rights on this system. So you can see here which COM port it's using. The resolution of the LEDs are 128 by 32. So keep this in mind when you're going to create your own custom graphics, if you decide to do that, that the resolution of those graphic banners should be 128 by 32. So again, 128 by 32. And then it's asking for what the host address is. It's localhost. And this user message game specific. I'm not sure what any of these are. I haven't seen them yet. But play the last thing on startup. It's no. Sub display ports. I'm not sure what those are controlling. It looks like the device has the capability to do some LED strips, but I was not given those instructions specifically, so I'm not going to mess with it. But it does look like this device was designed with some expandability in mind. LED strips, things like that. So I'm not going to touch those. Just kind of looking through these options. And you can do some feed tickers from RSS type feeds. And then startup LED marquee is yes. Startup the name is arcade. So again, I'm not sure what all those mean, but this will show you where your COM port is if you happen to forget. So let's go ahead and cancel this one. So when you launch that browse artwork, it's actually going to the Pixelcade software that's running a little mini browser. And as you can see, it currently says Pixelcade because that's what's by default. And it's set for scrolling text. And we're going to put Maverick's arcade is awesome, right? And we're going to use the color red. So again, pretty cool. And we can test the speed. So if you're trying to play with an idea, this is a good way to kind of test what it would look like before you put it into your system. So then we'll make it really slow. Pretty neat. Now let's go look at arcade marquees. And again, this is looking through the files and all the artwork. So, and this is also where you can choose to upload a file into that setup. So if there's custom artwork that you made that's a PNG or an animated GIF or a regular GIF, you can browse it here and then hit upload and it'll automatically put it into its system. So, and then at this point you can go to any of these and hit display to see what it would look like. You can also hit save and basically download a copy of it. Or I guess not. Let's hit display and then display. So there's Arkanoid. And again, these graphics are going to be as basically good or bad as the amount of time somebody took to make it look good. Sometimes people will just grab scaled up versions and scale them down, and that doesn't look as good because it gets all choppy and stuff. So if you're going to submit to the community, try to make sure it's at least, somewhat decent. This one I don't like. I've seen this one show up a couple times, and that one just kind of like it doesn't translate as well. But in any case, these are all static images, and then you can go back to the top and we can choose. We just want to look at the ones that are animated. So if you have an animated GIF, you want to upload it here. And again, any of these you can just click on to see what the animation looks like. Just kind of browse around. That one's kind of cool, kind of violent. Love it. So again, you just browse around. Now, once you're done with that, just go ahead and close it out. And it'll probably keep playing because it's not gotten the notification to stop. And this is using a REST API. So if you're into development at all, you could actually code straight to port 8080 with the REST commands. And there is information on those sources on Pixelcade's site. So the one other thing we're going to check out and use caution when doing this, if you've created your own artwork, is in the Pixelcade marquee, you can have check for updates. And what that does is just checking for updates to the Pixel LED software. So this is just checking for the Pixelcade marquee LED software. But if your artwork, you want to check and see if there's any new artwork out there, you would go to Pixelcade and do artwork updater. And it does give you a warning before you do this. If you've created custom artwork, make sure to back it up and save it somewhere else before you do this updater, because it would delete it if it's not been posted to that collaborative website. And if you do wish to submit your own artwork to be added, there is information. Go ahead to this site and you'll contribute your art to the art exchange. And then basically once your art is part of the art exchange, you don't have to worry about backing it up because it'll get a new copy of what you've submitted downloaded. So until you've submitted it, though, make sure to have backup copies. I would just suggest when you make any artwork, save it to another location and upload it. That way you have 2 copies at all times. We are definitely going to be attempting this ourselves with that project. And again, hit subscribe, hit like, make sure notifications are on, because when that comes out, it's going to be awesome. So you definitely want to make sure to see that. But really, that's all I've got for this thing. This thing installed so smoothly. And like I said, my only concern or complaint is that power supply is really loose. But again, that's easily fixable. When you go to mount it, just make sure that power cord is secured and can't jiggle loose. But it's going to be really fun to check out all the various things that we can do with it. And again, more coming up in a couple videos, including the big arcades getting the upgrade as well. So I'm going to show you how it works for custom size Pixelcade devices in the very, very near future. So make sure to turn on notifications so you get that. But otherwise, that's it for today. Again, thank you for watching.